Hello and welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we're talking with Stu Swineford. And Stu is all the way out in Boulder, Colorado, or just outside of Boulder, and they have an agency that helps nonprofit and purpose-driven businesses with all of their marketing. And we had a great conversation about selecting and narrowing to a single target market. I love that they're crystal clear on who it is that they're trying to attract. And we had a great conversation about a way of getting involved in that community, in the community of nonprofits or B Corps or whatever that may be, that would start providing content for them. And we kind of talked about a nice content marketing strategy involving podcasting. And so we had a really good conversation. And I think that you're going to enjoy this episode. So here we go.
Stu?
Dean, how are you?
How are you, my friend?
Very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, I'm very excited. It's I love when I wake up in the morning and I've got a, nice little evil scheme hatching session on my calendar. It's a bright spot in my day. So I've got my remarkable tablet, got my coffee, just about to sit in my comfy chair, and we've got Stu Swineford. So everything we need for a good evil scheme hatching session. So where are you calling from, Stu?
I'm calling from the woods west of Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
We've been working at home, obviously, kind of like the rest of the world here, who are fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I live at about 9,000 feet up here in the woods between Netherland and Blackhawk.
I was really I happen to live at very close to the highest point in Florida, which is 182 feet above sea level.
Yep.
So, when I went to Durango to visit my friend Jeff Walker, who lives over there, they're at about 7,000 feet, I think, something like that. And I was surprised. Like, we were going out for dinner and we parked, and then it was slightly up a hill to go to this restaurant. I was realizing, wow, why? I know I'm out of shape, but this seems like unusually out of shape for, I seem a little winded here, but I forgot about the altitude, makes a difference.
Yeah, there's significantly less oxygen up here. And if you're coming from sea level, it's a big difference for sure.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about what you've got going on here, and what we can chat about.
Cool. Well, really, I'm a co-founder of a digital marketing firm called Relish Studio, and we like to say we help good people do great things, and that really means to us that we serve leaders of kind of growth-focused leaders of purpose-driven businesses.
And what does that mean to you when you say purpose-driven businesses? What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question. Really, we'd like to help people who have, giving back is kind of baked into their company ethos. It's not just an afterthought, but it's kind of part of their mission. So think of people who run B Corps. People like Patagonia would be a great example of a business that has something more than just making money. They really want to give back to their communities and to all their stakeholders, and those are the kinds of people that we like to serve most, or at least influence people to have that same sort of mentality that doing business can be more than just making money.
Sure, got it. Okay, that makes sense. So then what?
So then we provide them with services to try and help them build relationships online. I have really been trying to think of marketing as more than just convincing someone to buy something, and really trying it's really trying to create relationships. And whether that's a quick win relationship, buy this widget type of thing, that becomes kind of a transactional relationship. But ultimately, a lot of our clients have bigger ticket items that they're trying to sell. So they're selling, larger ticket B2B services, for example. And that sales cycle tends to be a little longer than just,
sure,
I found you online and I'm ready to buy this thing. And so how do we help them nurture those connections into real relationships that are long lasting and very powerful?
Okay. And so how do you do that? What's the core of the kind of services that you offer that you get paid for?
Yeah. So our bread and butter is really conversion focused WordPress websites.
Okay.
So we've been doing that kind of work for quite a few years now. Really looking at opportunities to help people figure out what they need to do, what their messaging needs to be, what their site needs to do for them to help get them into those conversations that then facilitate that relationship building. Lately, we've been, during this pandemic, I'm not sure when this episode will come out, but currently we're still in the midst of an economic conundrum here. And so we've always held the attitude that we want to do what's right for our clients and our customers. And when people come to us and say we need a new website, a lot of times we look at what they have and really try and focus on, how can we just make this work better for you, as opposed to doing a full scrape. I use a housing metaphor where right now we're doing a lot more remodeling than kind of that full scrape and rebuild.
New paint, carpet, clean it up. Yeah.
Or just looking at opportunities for some conversion focus, and a lot of sites really are just missing calls to action, or they're missing what do you want me to do now? So really helping people figure that out and put a plan in place to get people to do the things you want them to do on the site.
Right. That's great. And a lot of people don't realize that, think they need a new website, but if nobody's coming to your website, having a new website isn't going to solve the problem.
Exactly.
Maybe not it's not that. We used to, in the early days, back in 98, 99, when things were just kind of getting started online, I identified and used a formula that I would say it was eyeballs plus emails plus hearts equal faces. And that would mean essentially, first you got to get eyeballs to your website. And then the next most important thing is that you get emails from the people who come to the site. And then hearts are bonding with them, winning their hearts and minds. And then equal is an offer that gets them into a collaboration with you face to face or together. So focusing on that formula was a way to identify where the problem was. If people were getting lots of traffic, lots of eyeballs, but nobody is leaving their name and email, or there's no engagement on the site, that's one thing. But if they're not getting any eyeballs, we don't know whether what is on the website is the problem, right? That's not it. So, that formula still really holds, the way I think about things like that. So, how much would a typical engagement with you? What would be the revenue that you would generate in a typical engagement? Like, what's your largest check or your average ticket, or the relationship, how that works out?
Well, we're still doing some tactical things for people, so that comes in at a lower price range. But I think that the kind of going back to that bread and butter stuff, really we're in the kind of $7,500 to $12,000 range. Is a pretty typical rebuild, or new site type of engagement, and so those are the things that kind of fuel our regular revenue.
Yes.
Certainly we've done stuff up into the six-figure range with it.
Yes. Full
really,
e-commerce and all
just all of that stuff. And then I'd say our lifetime value for a client is in the kind of probably 2x of that initial engagement. And certainly we have some clients that have contributed. We've been in business actually almost today 13 years, and we have a couple of clients that are in the mid six figures in terms of lifetime value. But I would say the average is probably closer to, and probably if we were to be smart about that and discount those one or two clients that are huge, I would say between 15 and 20,000 is our LTV.
Okay, that's great. And how do you get these clients now? What's your best strategy for getting new business?
Well, historically, like a lot of people, I would say we've leaned really heavily on word of mouth, and then networking becomes kind of that second bucket, which is a little bit of the same thing, but ultimately just getting in front of people and making connections and being authentic and sharing information. Networking has kind of gone away a little bit, or we've had to pivot that a bit. And so right now I've been very focused on building connections on LinkedIn. So we're doing a ton of LinkedIn prospecting and trying to just provide value there. And as well as trying to continue to build our email list. And I'd say our list is in the 500 to 600 person range right now. And my LinkedIn following has crept up into the 3,500 range at this point.
Okay. So this is great. The emails, when you start looking at the, your communication ability here, you've got 500 people that you could literally, send an offer to right now, basically, right? You could push out things to them. You're not depending on kind of getting them coming to your website or doing anything. How often, if I'm one of the 500 people on your email list, what's my experience? How often am I getting emails from you, and what am I getting?
So I would say we neglected that list for quite some time. And in the last 6 months or so, we've been very intentional about going back to that list and really trying to provide valuable information. We were doing these kind of standard newsletter, like here's a bunch of stuff and choose your own adventure thing, which we have decided to take a different tact. And so in the last about 3 months, what we've really started doing is emailing out our most recent post directly to that list. So instead of forcing someone to click on a link and go to the site and read that there, we're basically saying, hey, here's our latest bit of information, which we hope you find valuable. And if you need more help, reply here. And so that's been our tactic. We've been we've been emailing that stuff out on the regular basis, which is about once a week.
Okay, perfect. So once a week you send out an email, and that's a smart way, is that it's all self-contained. Everything is happening right there, along with the opportunity for them to respond.
Yes, and I also have a super signature there too that gives three kind of ideas. Yeah.
Okay. And there's the thing is, whenever you're ready, here's 3 ways we can help you. So what would be the offers in your super signature then? What's the ways that people can reach out for you?
So the super signature currently, and of course I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to have to look it up. Hold on.
That's okay. Yeah.
So it's basically we have three kind of main offers. in terms of just ways for us to help. And one is an offer of a site assessment. So my internet is running a little slowly, so I apologize. One is like I'm calling it kind of move the needle, where we'll review your website and social media accounts and then share the number one thing you can implement right now to help move the needle for your business. It'll be unique to you, blah, blah, blah. Second one is what I'm calling the 360-degree review, and that's more of a robust site assessment, and provide, kind of a custom consultation report detailing ways that you can improve. And then the third is what I'm just calling trends and trash, which is, do you want to know what I'm seeing on the front lines of marketing? Grab some time and we can chat about what's kind of happening in the world of marketing today. Those are the three kind of ways to engage, and all of them are free of charge. We're just really trying to educate
forward
and
exactly on the right things. So part of this thing, once you get into that rhythm and the cadence of sending out the weekly things, you've got your super signature there. The great thing would be to get to 5,000 people on your list.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of 500 people. So are you doing anything list building wise? What's your strategy for getting those emails?
So again, I've been doing a bunch of outreach on LinkedIn to build my base there. I have currently an email that gets auto-generated to new leads on LinkedIn, just basically saying, hey, I'm not trying to bug you or sell you anything here. Just wanted to give you another opportunity or another way to get in touch with me if you need to. And I think I need to retool that email to actually have.
Yeah, you never ever want to say, don't ever go from your heels. Don't ever back away. Say treat everybody like they're a 5-star prospect. Like that, by default, what you're saying to people there is you're trying to guard against the people who might be upset by you emailing them or whatever, right?
Yep.
And that's then 100% of the people are being treated like they're not 5-star prospects, which only plants that seed of that thought in the people who may not have otherwise thought that, right?
Absolutely.
So if you treat everybody like they're a 5-star prospect and be okay if the bottom 20% of them are turned off by that or not interested in that, that's fine. You got to be okay with it, but don't rob the top 20% of your very best intentions and efforts because you're trying to protect against the blowback from the bottom 20%.
That's
that makes
great
sense.
advice. Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I realized just last week. I was like, this is not the way I should be doing this. So so we need to fix that particular outreach piece. So the main goal of this whole campaign is really to get people engaged in conversations.
Yes.
And so I'm really leveraging mostly the kind of messaging within LinkedIn currently to, kind of nurture and get people into a conversation. And so I think I'm missing an opportunity there to continue to build the email list. And so I need to come up with a new offer, which I then put out in LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. And as part of that, maybe, are you targeting specifically B Corps or who are you targeting on LinkedIn? Who are you trying to speak to?
So unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't have a great mechanism for targeting B Corps. So we're doing some other things to build a list of those types of people. We are a 1% for the planet partner, so we have an offer out to other 1% people. And we've been trying to build our 1% connection list as well, both on LinkedIn and then I think the thing I'm missing here is transitioning from that platform to getting them on my list. And so I just think I need to come up with some mechanism by which I'm attempting to move in that direction as well.
Yeah. A book is a great idea for that. Like in terms of something that gets your, that's valuable, but is also your philosophical approach so that people resonate with that, are going to be attracted to it, and you've been doing it for 13 years and you've probably got some good case studies and field reports and things, how people are doing well by doing good, and that might be a good opportunity there. Do you have a podcast, or do you do anything like that would be a media-based type of thing?
That's a great question. Currently, we have several content offers, tools and informational items that we've produced over the years that we could use as kind of giveaway stuff. I don't currently have a podcast, although I've been contemplating that. I've been just trying to guest on podcasts. One of the things that I see is a real challenge in the podcast world is how do you build that audience? Because it's so crowded and noisy.
Well, it doesn't matter. Here's part of the thing is there's so many other things that are valuable about a podcast. So I think that it would be better if you could not even have access to see what the audience for your podcast is. Let's not even think about that. The thing that's the most valuable about the podcast is the positioning for you of being a authority in the field, right? In the category. What would be the category that you are, is it social responsibility? Is it corporate social responsibility? Is it, what would be the kind of category that somebody would identify with that you're a part of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the coming at it from a corporate social responsibility with the marketing slant in terms of here are ways to get your message out, and further your CSR. That might be a good area of discussion.
And part of the thing, like, are you working with, you're probably in a hotbed of that in Denver and Colorado in general, right? Of companies that are, companies per capita that are that way oriented are probably more plentiful in Colorado than maybe some other places.
Boulder at one point had the densest population of either B Corps or one of those. But I'd say that it's certainly on the radar here.
Yeah. So when you look at that, are the majority of your clients sort of local like that, or are they all over?
Well, that's something that we've done a pretty haven't managed to nail yet, is this kind of differentiation piece. And we when I do my 80-20 analysis, and I did one recently, it made me really happy to see that in that 20% of our clients making 80% of our revenue, we did have a bunch of nonprofits in there. So that was really thrilling to see. And this was over the last 2 years. Basically, the last one I did was in that zone. And so we are getting traction in that space, and that's certainly the direction that we would want to go. The rest of them were a bit all over the place. To be, completely honest, they were, everything from construction companies to, legal, not legal, service providers who have high ticket items, so professional services, et cetera. So it was a little unfocused, and that's one of the.
What about the geography of them? Are they?
They were mostly Colorado, and then therefore mostly
say no more.
Denver.
That's fine because this is the kind of thing that we're looking for here. Is to identify your single target audience. Right?
Yes,
and this is, and I always have to go back to the definition, right? Because when I look at everything I'm overlaying on top of any business situation is the 8 profit activators. So I'm looking at that, and I'm the meta context of the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit. And so your during and after unit are strong. You do great work. You've got great clients. They stay with you. They're happy. It's all working. If somebody shows up at your door, you've figured out how to do the work, right? So this is a before unit situation that we're looking to grow. Now, the advantage of the before unit is that we get to go out and select who it is. But the challenge that people have when we get to selecting a single target market is that people often misinterpret that as their mindset is still trying to get to a point where they want to let people know what they do so that they can be selected, as opposed to proactively doing the selecting, right? So what I'm talking about is going out and you select a single target market. So if we say nonprofits, that's different than B Corps, but B Corps are another type of another category of potential clients for you, right?
Sure.
And so you've got traction with nonprofits. You've got some great, ongoing relationships with them. And so it gets into this whole idea of, have you ever heard me talk about WeShootBottles.com?
I don't know that I've heard that one.
Okay.
Tell me more.
So WeShootBottles.com. If you're online, you can check it out. But WeShootBottles.com is a commercial photographer in the UK, and they have a website that's their website, We Shoot Bottles, and the only thing on the website is bottles, and they show all the different bottle work that they've done, right? So if you've got a product that is packaged in a bottle, and you've got a choice of going to a commercial photographer who does the entire spectrum of types of photography, or going to a photographer who seems to have a specialized program specifically for bottles, you're going to be much more attracted to that, right?
Absolutely.
Even though they have a sister website called WeShootCans.com.
Right.
And so you look at it, all they do is help people who package things in cans. So if you were to think about creating a division of your business that is nonprofit oriented, right? But you think about it as a nonprofit brand, that you put yourself in the Procter & Gamble situation, where you've got different brands that are appealing to the different spectrum of people that you're working with. Like Procter and Gamble has 23 individual billion-dollar brands,
right,
underneath Procter and Gamble, right? So if we look at it that your opportunity is with nonprofits, you've got a visible prospect now, right? So if you look at that, there are in Colorado, how many nonprofit companies are there, nonprofit organizations that are, what would be the characteristics if you were to say this would be our ideal, even if you just mirror the characteristics of the ones who are already your top 20%, what would that look like? What would make somebody a good, if we were going to, send them to Austria and clone them, what would be the genetic makeup of these best clients that you have?
Right. So typically we do our best work for clients in that kind of top line revenue, or I suppose for a nonprofit, it would be, donations in the $1 to $5 million range, with kind of the sweet spot being in that $2.5 million. And they've been in business for a while. They've had their organization going for a while. And, so this isn't their first rodeo.
They're not a startup.
Yeah. And they know that they need to invest, and they have a desired outcome for that investment. So those would be three things. So, we kind of try and sort that out by either head count, that sort of gets you into that, that range. So, more than 5, less than 25, probably. Those are usually the things that we are looking for.
Okay. That's great.
I could think more about that.
And would you say, no, it's a good start, but now what we're doing is we're going to overlay some really your unique, stack of knowledge here. So when we look at it, that how many just nonprofits in general do a good job of marketing?
Oh, a lot of them are very sophisticated, actually. And then a lot of them are very unsophisticated. So
antiquated, right?
There's a wide range in that space. And I would say, that we are able and desirous to work with both ends of that spectrum. I should probably just pick one, though.
Well, the news is, the great thing is these are all visible prospects, right? So when you look at this, if we were to say, let's say there's, how many would you guess there are in Colorado that would fit that profile?
That's a lot. I would say probably, in the sophisticated ones, there are probably, 100. And the at the other end of the spectrum, there are probably 1,000 or more. Right?
Yeah. So that's the thing when you look at it. So if we say I was looking to see is there 1,000 of these, right? That this is the thing. If there was an audience of these of 1,000 of them, that where I said all of that, to get to this point where this is where I was talking about with the podcast now. Is that the value of the podcast is not about building a big audience. It's about building the right audience. But more importantly, it's about gathering the right content for it. Right. And so if you've got a podcast that is, and I don't know, I haven't checked out the landscape of this, but if you look at it, how many podcasts would there be that are focused on cutting edge marketing for Colorado nonprofits?
Oh, probably none. I would be I'd be surprised if there was anything that specific.
Exactly. Okay. So there you go. So you've got the opportunity to be the podcast for Colorado nonprofits that are interested in marketing, right? That's your overlay. This is the only podcast. This is the place for forward-thinking marketing for nonprofits. And you start to about what would be the words that would, make that enticing. Then you start to look at who are the people who are the shining lights in this. Who are the people who are doing it the best? What are they doing that is working, right? Who's the leader of these, that the visionary for these nonprofits, the voice, the vision, the energy of it, right? The driver of it. They're usually, the best nonprofits are not committee driven. There's somebody there's a leader for them, right?
Right. I think I see where you're going.
And now, yes, but if you've got a podcast that is highlighting those, if you're, doing an interview with those people, talking all about what is going on, the lessons they've learned, the advice that they would have, the their philosophies, the story, they're letting them kind of tell their greatest hits of how they overcame some of the problems. What would be the most valuable things in the story of this particular nonprofit, right? That you get to, because you've got a vehicle like that, you've got a way to now interview those people. You take the top 20% of them, 200, and you've got a 4-year, runway of one of these leaders a week for, and you may be able to turn part of it into you start with the top ones, and then you turn it around to do maybe a More Cheese, Less Whiskers type of podcast where you are working with a nonprofit to share the best strategies or your best advice or answering their questions about marketing, which is a great model for you to demonstrate your expertise in this topic.
Love it. I think that's great. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I have been in talks with another guy, and we were at one point it was actually, we started talking before all this shutdown happened. And then things got weird, but we were talking about doing something like this. But I think one of the things we just never figured out was what's the angle part.
Right.
Right. So this is super helpful.
Now, what you've got then is that the most important thing out of this, and it doesn't matter whether anybody listens to the podcast. And I say that with of course you want people to listen to it, but that's not the most important thing, because what you get out of this is, first of all, you get a connection with these 1,000 people, right? I mean, you get a connection with the top ones that you show up on their radar. They might not even know who you are right now, right? Like, if you're going to build a business around working with nonprofits to apply great marketing to their and great marketing assets to their business or their approach, then they have to know who you are.
Right.
Right. So this is what a great way to serve them, right? So you show up on their radar there. So if it'd be easy for you to just kind of use that as a thing, saying, "Hey, we're starting a new podcast series for Colorado nonprofits, and I've always admired what you have been doing, and I would love to have you in the series," right? So you maybe think about it as a mini series when you're first talking about it, that you're going to interview, 12 of the leaders of Colorado nonprofits, and you'd love to have them be part of it. Nobody's gonna. They've never been asked to be featured on something or recognized for their accomplishments,
Right.
And so that's an easy thing for them to do. But now they know who Stu Swineford is.
Yeah.
Because Stu Swineford is a guy who's recognizing them. He's recognizing their accomplishments. Right? So now when you do the interview, you interview them for an hour. You talk about the whole story. You talk about the background, the greatest things that they did, their advice to people who are emerging nonprofits who are trying to get traction. Like, they get to share some of the lessons, the thing that they wish they knew when they started out. You can really structure the way you frame the interview so that you get future content that you can use as well. Because the most important thing is that you are now digitizing this content, right? Meaning that you're having these conversations and they're being recorded. As soon as you record it, now you've got an asset, because you can take that recording and you get it transcribed. And from that, you can write articles, right? Like, so I send out 3 emails a week to everybody on my list, right? And those 3 emails are all 100% derived from things that I've said on the podcast. So you know how when I'm doing a podcast, and we get into a conversation, then there'll be periods where I have some clarity for someone, and I'll talk for longer than normal. Like, I'll go down a path to get a concept or an idea out, conveyed to you. So I have a writer who takes the transcript of every podcast and finds 2 or 3 of those in every episode where a concept or an idea or an articulation that I use to share something. And then she'll turn that into a 300 to 500 word article, right? That becomes one of the emails that I send. And then each week there's a new podcast. So the announcement of that podcast is so every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, you get an email from me that is bringing value, because it's 100% content, right? It's a new concept, a new idea, a new podcast, and it's a carrier for my super signature and the PS, where I can say whatever I've got going on right now. PS, I'm starting a new email mastery program this week. Right. Those are the kind of things, but I'm always leading with value, always leading with content. Yep. Now, that's an easy way for you to get that content. And by the way, when you're doing this More Cheese, Less Whiskers approach, which you could do just as well, is a great way to constantly to fill your podcast, right? Yes. When you look at it, I didn't call you up and say, "Hey, I need you to be a guest on my podcast, you at some point saw a super signature that said, hey, be a guest on our More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast. And at some point you thought, hey, that'd be a good idea. And you went and you submitted the form, and then Lillian called you up at some point and said, hey, how about Thursday morning? And you said, perfect. And then you show up on my calendar on Thursday morning, and that's the first involvement that I've had in the entire process. Right. So that's, I think, when you look at that, once you get that established, you've got a way that, wow, this is something that you can continue. It kind of gets its own momentum, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really like the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Now, what this also allows you to do, though, is you can create a monthly field report or journal, or, 10 times a year, you could create a PDF piece that is pictures, transcripts, all these articles that you've sent, plus more in-depth things, or the transcript of or the show notes from the podcast that you've had, plus some featured case study, some news that affects nonprofits in Colorado, where you become the de facto media outlet for nonprofits in Colorado.
Yeah.
All that content.
This is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All that content created from the podcast. And all of that, that you're really getting a great thing, Did you ever see Tim Ferriss's book, Tribe of Mentors?
That's funny you mentioned that. That came up in a conversation I had yesterday, and I have not read that one. But it's really interesting how when you start to have conversations, you start having the same conversations over and over again. It's kind of cool,
right? But then you look at in 1 year you do 50 of these podcasts, a combination of interviews with top leaders of nonprofits and aspiring or emerging nonprofits who are seeking your advice. And you have, at the end of the year, this great volume of both insights from leaders and advice that you've given to people to create a book from that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of how this all just builds on itself without it's scalable in that you're not recreating the wheel every time. You're creating one thing that then you serialize or it's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
That's exactly. No, I get it, but you're building on it. That's exactly right. And all the while, you're the host of that, So then you start, it's an interesting thing that you can start then, you're positioning yourself as a leader in the nonprofit community.
Yes.
It's just adding value, right? And then, by the way, we have all of these marketing, all these services to help you do all the things that we talk about if you need help with that.
Yeah, I actually looked into your book writing service. And I don't remember exactly why I didn't move forward with that, but certainly.
Well, now that you know,
really
what the intention is, it would be easier for you to have that. If you've got a guideline, that maybe that's your thing, is that you do the first 10 of these, take 10, the 10 if you were to rank the nonprofit, leaders out of those 1,000 that are there, you could get the highest profile 10 that you could, and do the first 10 episodes like that, and create a book from that. That if they've been, because I imagine some of those people have been running nonprofits for more than 20 years.
Yeah, there's some pretty good sized opportunities just in the state for sure.
If there are, that's your thing, that could be, 250 years of nonprofit leadership advice into top 10 things. That would be a really great opportunity for you, I think.
I like it.
Yeah.
So going back, you mentioned early on creating a book. In our conversation today.
Yeah.
Then we kind of pivoted to the 52, so like take each week, but that requires me to do this for a year. So now we've got it down to 10 weeks of
no, I think that's just the kickstart. I still want you to do it for a year. I think you should think about doing this ongoing all the time.
Yeah. What I was curious about was when you said book early on, before we started talking about podcasts and all of that. What do you feel like a book, quote unquote, is in terms of volume?
Well, I think a book is just a way to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, so I have a real estate community that we built called Go Agent. And what drives that is I wrote a book called Listing Agent Lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And those are power words for real estate. That's what people want. They'd love to be a listing agent, but they want to have a nice lifestyle too, right? Because they often seem to go counter to each other. That success in real estate often seems like you have to sacrifice your lifestyle for it. I'm saying be a strong listing agent and have a great lifestyle. And there are 8 elements of the listing agent lifestyle. Okay, there's 5 business elements of, if you're going to have a listing-centric business, you've got to have a way to get listings. So we focus on getting listings. We talk about multiplying their listings. We talk about getting referrals and converting leads and finding buyers. And then we talk about the lifestyle elements of daily joy, abundant time, and financial peace. And so those 8 things make up the contextual framework of what the listing agent lifestyle is all about. And it's an introduction to the concepts, to the ideas. So it's a small book. It's a 90-minute book to engage in a conversation with people who recognize I'm interested in that idea. Right? Because it doesn't make any difference whether the book is 50 pages or 250 pages to trigger that recognition that I'd like to be in that conversation, Okay. If a real estate agent sees an ad coming through their newsfeed with an offer and the cover of a book called Listing Agent Lifestyle, they know that that's something that they would love to have a conversation about, right? So it's easy for them to do that. Now, they make that decision without knowing whether that book is 50 pages or 250 pages. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say, I want it. Now, as soon as when you're using a book like this, somebody says, I want that, and they leave their name and their email address, now they're a visible prospect. And the book has largely done its job. That's Profit Activator 2. The only reason that I'm using the book is to facilitate identifying the people who want to have that conversation. It's a gathering. It's a calling card, right?
Right.
To say, anybody who's interested in this, come on over here. And then that's where the podcast comes in. The podcast is a Profit Activator 3 tool for educating and motivating people. And as a carrier for our Profit Activator 4 offers, the cookies, your super signature, the thing that you're offering to people to help them take the next step in your journey.
Right. And Profit Activator 1 would be the outreach or ad
selecting,
or whatever.
Selecting the target market. Colorado nonprofits over $1 million. That's who those are. Now, those are visible prospects because they have to be registered and there's transparency in all of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you can identify who they are. Now, the other thing that you want to bookend this, of course, is you're going to be online trying to get all of them. But the opportunity that you have when you have visible prospects is you can send addressable media, meaning you can send postcards to these people.
Mm-hmm.
You can send a postcard that is, has a really great article, or imagine that it's essentially like having your magazine,
right,
where you can send something to them, showing and giving them, here's the links to or the addresses for the podcasts. You can use QR codes to see who's responding to stuff. All of that, and carry your super signature on the postcard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You look at that maybe you identify 1,000 of them, and you look at it that if you spend $1,000 a month for a year doing these, because the great news about it is that these are the 1,000 nonprofits in Colorado. There they are. So if they either have a need right now, or you're planting the seed of the discussion of a need, and at some point that need will, present itself, right? And the only reflex that they will have is, we need to talk to Stu.
Right.
Yeah.
This is great stuff. Thank you.
So much opportunity there. That's tell me how's this landing? I'd love to hear your interpretation now, because I can't believe we're already at the hour here.
How fast these go, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that most of the time, people like myself tend to get focused on the perceived success measure of everything we do, when in actuality there are other components that are just underlying, that are way more important than the perceived success. And so one of the things I think that stopped me from doing a podcast earlier this year, or creating a podcast earlier this year, was like, how am I going to get an audience? And what if no one listens to this thing? And so your advice that doesn't matter, that the content is what's important, and how to then leverage that content into other.
Well, listen, I can't tell you how many times. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times. I just got an email this morning from someone who said, I just found out about you yesterday, and I've been listening to your podcast nonstop since I found out. Like that was somebody about the listing agent lifestyle. Just literally this morning, I got that email, and I get those all the time. So it doesn't matter whether anybody's listening right now. Right. And so if I can get people to put a black box over the stats and just commit to doing it for a year.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if each one of your clients is a $12,000 or $15,000 LTV, you're going to get more than one client out of that kind of a output for, and that kind of a focus on serving them for a year. It's pretty amazing,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then you have a bunch of other mechanisms in there that could create revenue in terms of, I'm assuming you sell the book for something, even if it's a very low cost. Okay, you just give it away. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Because it's a PDF of the book. Right. So yeah, but that's the whole thing. I want to maximize, because I know that the value of the email address is much more. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think I need to start a podcast. That's the big takeaway here.
So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, like hyper focused. And then we discussed a few other sectors, and you just do the same thing in each of those. So tackle one and get some traction, and then if that either dries out or we get big enough that we can handle all that's bringing to us, then just spin and do it again, right?
Yeah, I just think the more you can focus on for 1 year, one audience, one approach there, that I think that's, you've got a lot of opportunity there, because certainly once you get to, those under your belt, it's a real established thing,
Absolutely. The other piece I love about this, and I've had a lot of discussions recently about imposter syndrome and things like that, and I think that would be the other thing that has been holding me back, is just what right do I have to talk about any of this? But the thing that I love about this approach is that I'm not the expert in the room. If I'm interviewing all of these people, who are amazing and do great stuff, and so it just becomes kind of a thing, and then obviously you spin it into the More Cheese component, because clearly I do have expertise here, so that's absolutely just fantastic.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I'm certainly one of those people that you've been on my radar for a while, but then I have definitely experienced I'm going to binge listen to a bunch of these episodes. So,
and here we are.
Yep, here we are, and I really appreciate the time and all of the insights, and thanks for having me on.
Okay, awesome. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Stu. Bye.
And there we have it. Another great episode. Thanks for listening in. If you want to continue the conversation, we'll go deeper in how the 8 Profit Activators can apply to your business. 2 things you can do. Right now, you can go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com and you can download a copy of the More Cheese Less Whiskers book, and you can listen to the back episodes, of course, if you're just listening here on iTunes. Secondly, the thing that we talk about in applying all of the 8 profit activators are part of the breakthrough DNA process. And you can download a book and a scorecard and watch a video all about the 8 profit activators at breakthroughdna.com. And that's a great place to start the journey in applying this scientific approach to growing your business. That's really the way we think about Breakthrough DNA as an operating system that you can overlay on your existing business and immediately look for insights there. So that's it for this week. Have a great week, and we will be back next time with another episode of More Cheese, Less Whiskers.